Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Tahir Hindsa. We have today with us someone who has seen monetary policy and in fact the macroeconomy from a very close quarter. He had been at the helm of affairs at a critical junction and then at a time when the economy was flourishing for several reasons. He has also prepared the reform agenda for bureaucracy, agriculture and other things as well. We have today with us Dr. Ishrat Hussain. Doctor, very warm welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, should we start from your committee report? Where is it now?
No, there was no report. There were two task forces which were appointed by the Prime Minister in September 2018, and both were headed by me. One was on the restructuring of the federal government, and the other one was on the civil services reform. The restructuring report was presented to the Cabinet on June 2019, and it was approved by the Cabinet, and they formed an implementation committee which was headed by me, but they had ministers like Shafqat Mahmood, Parvez Khattak, Fakhr Imam, Arbab Shehzad, Nadeem Babar, which used to meet every week to see the implementation of the report. So that task force had recommended that out of 447 government entities in the federal government, only 310 would be retained as autonomous bodies or attached departments. And the rest of these organizations, some of which existed from 1950s, they had outlived their utility. They were not doing anything but just drawing salaries and paying rents. They had to be wound up, liquidated. Some of them had to be merged. Some of them had to be transferred to the provincial governments, and some of them had to be privatized. So this plan has been completed and implemented, except that the privatization process has been very slow. And the list of the entities on the privatization board's agenda is pretty long. And we gave the priority to the distribution companies of PEPCO, which is the energy sector, power sector, which is creating a lot of problems. And there we decided that instead of having the assets of the DISCOs transferred to the private sector, we will maintain the assets under the government control, but give the management contract to the private sector with performance targets, that you have to reduce the losses of the transmission and distribution from this percentage to this percentage over this period of time, and you will be paid according to that. And also the recovery should be 100%, and if you reach the 100%, then we will pay you for that. So it is performance-based remuneration for the private sector, but the management will be in their control. And this has also been approved by the Cabinet, and it is now with the Privatization Commission. That will make a huge difference as far as I am concerned.
On circular debt?
In the circular debt, as well as the subsidies which the federal government is paying. The federal government this year, I think, is paying, if I recall correctly, more than 550 billion rupees as subsidies. Now we pay for SR's program only 200 billion. Look at 550, and out of that subsidy, you and I, who are quite well-to-do, we also receive those subsidies. 24 million consumers in Pakistan are receiving these subsidies. The tube wells in Punjab, in Balochistan, they're not paying anything, and they are getting subsidized. Same is the case in Azad Jammu Kashmir and other areas where there is no recovery. So this management contract, I think, to the private sector would improve the efficiency, service delivery also. And I think the reason that now we have surplus capacity, in any business with surplus capacity, you pay, you sell that on a discount. Now we don't have to raise the tariffs because we have very large surplus capacity. So the private sector, when they will manage it, they will say, well, we would give you a discount if you consume so much electricity. So that is on the most important sector.
Switch industrial unit
Switch
on
industrial
electricity.
unit. I mean, nowhere that I know, except the subcontinent, the industrial consumers are charged higher than the domestic consumers. In Pakistan, we are charging the industrial consumers. So they become non-competitive as far as the export sector is concerned. So although we have given them some relief, but this is not desirable. The desirable way is that you should ask the domestic consumers to pay the market price and target the small households which are below a certain poverty level, and you can subsidize them. And that will save you on the fiscal side, but also reach out to the poor segment of the population. Similarly, on gas, we have pipe gas, which cost us, almost, I think, 4 times more than what we are charging from the domestic consumer. And we are charging more from the industrial consumers. You subsidize LPG cylinders to the poor people, and that's perfectly all right. But pipe gas is only for power or for industrial sector. So we have our priorities which have to be corrected, and that's what we recommended in our report.
So you're looking forward to cut off the supplies of domestic users all?
No, we are saying that except for the
or
poor.
They should pay.
Except for the poor. 20%, 40%, let's say 40% households which are in the lowest quintiles, they should get at a subsidized and lower price. But well-to-do people,
should pay the price.
Pay the price.
All right. And what about fixing the bureaucracy?
Now that is the second task force. The second task force decided that we have to look at the whole value chain of the civil service, starting from recruitment and induction, training, performance evaluation, promotion and career progression, compensation and benefits, and retirement. You cannot touch any one part of the chain without amending the other component of the chain. For example, if you pay 85,000 rupees to a new recruit at grade 17, but the salaries are not related to performance, you are bringing in mediocrity. But if you say, no, only the top 20% of the outstanding performers will be getting higher compensation or higher salary or higher increment, then there will be an incentive for these people to work hard and perform well. Or you say everybody can be promoted on the basis of seniority after 5 years and 10 years and 15 years, people would relax. But you say no, there will be a criteria for promotion, and only those who fulfill those criteria will be promoted. Then people will work hard. So the entire philosophy of our civil service reforms is that we should distinguish between the well performers in the bureaucracy from the lagging performers who are just whiling away their time. So first, in the recruitment, we should bring in a screening test, because there are 40,000 people who are applying. You cannot actually read the scripts of all the 40,000 people. So you have to have a screening test, which will be MCQ. Those who qualify, then they will appear at the written exam. Those who qualify at the written exam will go through a psychometric test, whether you are really suitable for police, whether you're suitable for civil service, whether you're suitable for the foreign service. That is not happening right now. And then there will be interviews. And on the basis of this whole thing, you will be allocated the services. One of the recommendations we have made is that the allocation should take place after the civil service academy's final passing out exam. So you can assess during that period whether the person is really suitable for this job or not. And you combine the CSS results with the final passing out, and then you decide which service they can be allocated. But that has still not been, discussed in the cabinet. I hope this will be discussed. But the screening test has been approved. On the training, there was a big anomaly. There are 29,000 officers in the federal government. Only 6,000 are selected through the CSS. 23,000 are selected from among the economists, engineers, doctors, financial analysts, agriculturists, scientists, IT experts. And they have no career path, no training once they come through the Public Service Commission. So what the cabinet has decided, that like the CSS exams, these ex-cadre and cadre, non-cadre officials will also go through the same training. And the marks they obtain in the training will be counted towards a promotion. So we are making no distinction between the cadre and the non-cadre officers. After all, this country needs specialists, and we have neglected specialists. They are very demotivated, they are disheartened, they don't see any future for themselves, they don't work hard, they have outdated knowledge. Whatever they have read in the university, after that they have not been exposed to anything. So that has been approved, and the first organization which is before the corona had taken the initiative was the National Highway Authority for roadway engineers and the highway engineers. So that's on the training part. Even among the CSS cadres, they go through the MCMC, which is middle career, and then they go through the SMC, which is a senior. We have decided to split this into two parts. One will be done by the National Institutes of Management, which is general management training, and the second half they will go to their specialized training institution. So if you are from the Audit and Accounts Service, you will go to the Accounts Academy for 6 weeks to prepare yourself for the next position, which was missing. Army does that very well, that they tailor make their training to equip you for the future position you are going to hold. In the civil service, we didn't have. So this is a major reform.
When I was starting my career as a journalist, and I'll go out for interviews and meet and see the people, I would meet Moin Afzal, I would meet Ishrat Hussain, I would meet Javed Noel, and even at a junior level, Ismail Qureshi and others.
Right.
Today, none of them are there.
Yes, that's
and
true.
Afzal Kahoot, even Farooq Lagari.
Yes.
You meet people
Right.
like them. But today, there's a sea change.
No, there are reasons.
What do
for
you
it.
think that what you are suggesting is going to yield result in 30 years?
Well, 10 years at least, not
All right.
immediately. You know why?
So what you have suggested for those 10 years?
What you are seeing right now is a result of the 1973 reforms, where they abolished the civil service of Pakistan and created these 22 grades and
Most of it
equalized
was
the
badge of
salaries.
64, some of them.
Yeah, we were actually one of the most outstanding batches, and we produce the president,
Yourself,
the
Moin
governors,
Afzal
and a lot of good people. But now, after 73, the most talented young men and women are not coming to the civil service. So what you are seeing right now are those people who do not have the first preference. They have not been able to get jobs in the private sector or in other positions, and then they appear for this.
What should we do for these 10 years? Because it's a very critical juncture.
Yeah, but
and you know why I'm asking you? Because earlier you had a chance to send your bureaucrat on the Bretton Woods institutions to train.
Right.
You went to the World Bank and other. But now that is a very slim chance.
No, because we are not up to the mark. You see, that's the point. But 10 years, let me come what we have done right now. So this training will improve the competence level of the civil servants, which you are complaining about. The third most important is that there will be no promotion or seniority. There will be 40% marks for your performance, 30% marks for your training marks, and 30% marks evaluation by a board of selection board, which will look at your record and see whether you have the potential to rise to the higher positions or not. So that promotion is no longer seniority. And this was challenged in the court of law. This is already happening. This is not waiting for 10 years. This is a challenge in the court of Justice Athar Minallah. And Justice Athar Minallah has come out very clearly that promotion is not a right of a civil servant.
Yeah.
If it has followed a due process and the competent authority is satisfied, then judiciary has no business interfering in the matter of promotion. So this is now being done. So a lot of people who were quite senior have been superseded. And a lot of junior officers who are really very good in their competence and their performance, they have been promoted.
Right.
Similarly, linked to this is the compulsory retirement after 20 years. We call it the directory retirement. After 20 years, we would evaluate Tahir's entire service record. Has he been superseded? No? Fine. Has he got 3 consecutive adverse reports? No. Has he been accused by NAB or FIA of any malfeasance or corruption or anything? No. Then you will continue after 20 years into the service. But if any one of these 3
thing has happened to you,
then you are out. You are given
You're on the exit.
compulsory promotion.
All right.
And you go home. You will no longer be. Now what this will do is put pressure on the people to behave well. Otherwise they will be out. So that has also been challenged in the court of law, but that has been upheld by the Islamabad High Court also. So this is something which I think is very, very critical.
Yeah, one thing, but let me tell you, the viewers, these are very important things, and obviously he's the one who has done it, so it was important for you. But critically, I requested him this interview for something else, and that I'm going to tell you just quickly. The State Bank has just declared that to contain the current account deficit, which might reach 5.5% of the GDP, they want to bring it down through monetary policy to 4%. That means that it's going to create inequality and poverty maybe. In other words, on the shoulders of the poor, this country is going to propel. I wanted to ask Dr. Ishrat Hussain, because I have covered several monetary policy, directly or indirectly, in his interviews with him, to comment on that. And once again, this question is, sir, what did you tell me about that?
You tell them.
He says that he's not going to comment because it confuses the markets on that. But even then, once again, we will request him, if at all, he wanted to say something on that.
No, it's not appropriate for a former governor of the central bank to comment on the current monetary policy or the exchange rate policy, because there's already too much of confusion and fake news going around in the media. So you don't want to make the lives of your successors difficult by indulging in this debate. So that is my principled stand. And I haven't commented on any monetary policy statement since 2006.
Accountability is simultaneous to the autonomy
Yes,
which
sure.
is
I
being
mean,
given.
that goes without saying. Look, the state bank cannot be autonomous of or from the government. It can be autonomous within the government. What do I mean by that? And I have written about this question. Once the National Economic Council has set a target that this is going to be the GDP growth, this is going to be inflation, this is going to be the current account deficit, this is going to be the fiscal balance for the year, the state bank should be given operational autonomy to achieve those targets. So it is prescribed by them. And if it doesn't achieve those targets, it is accountable to the parliament. Because every quarter, the state bank has to submit a quarterly report on what it has achieved. And if it falls short of the targets which has been given to it, then they have to explain to the parliament. Unfortunately, the parliament has not been very active. Even under the present law, I used to submit my reports to the parliament quarterly, to both the Senate and National Assembly, but I was never called even once to explain what I have done right and what I have done wrong. And that is my suggestion, that you must call the governor or the deputy governor to explain if there are any significant deviations from the performance targets which have been given to you.
One more quick question. Should there be greater coordination between the fiscal and the monetary side, and they have abolished the board?
Look, the board had a legal and statutory position. But that doesn't mean that even if that is removed from the law, you cannot have a monetary and fiscal coordination board in practice. What is important is not the legal powers.
That would be useless.
No, it was not. This coordination board also depended very much on who the finance minister and the governor was. You see, the personalities do count in Pakistan a great deal. You may have the institutional framework, but if the tension between the governor and the state bank governor and the finance minister exists, then this board is not very effective.
Thank you very much for giving time, and I would not like to push you on what you don't want to say. This was Dr. Ishrat Hussain. He has I'm sure he has a very formed opinion on certain things, but as you see, he's reluctant to say something. With this, we come to the end of this interview. It was very useful. Keep watching our programs.